acknowledge the Tongva peoples as the traditional land caretakers of the Los Angeles Basin and the Southern Channel Islands. I pay my respects to the ancestors, the elders, the relatives and relations, past, present, and emerging.
Welcome. Wow. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. We're still in the Christmas season, coming to Epiphany, and we've got a brand new blustery year ahead of us. Today is a special service. It's a lay-led service in order to give our full-time staff and our wonderful senior minister a bit of a break. We wanted to give her a complete break, but it is a communion Sunday, the first Sunday of the month. And so we've got Reverend Ann leading us in communion as well. By the way, you know those communion cups, how difficult they are. I've learned a secret. What you do with the communion cups is you pull down the tab until you hear it crack. And then it peels off nice and... Oh, I'm just, it's why I got a PhD. By the way, my name is Paul Boyd Batstone. I'm a brand new, shiny moderator here. And we've planned a wonderful service for all of you stalwarts who came out the first day of the year after a hearty night of New Year's Eve celebrations. Just want to welcome you all, and I'm going to turn it over to our immediate past moderator, Sarah Schoenfeld.
Happy New Year. Oh, my goodness. And it's dry this morning. That's a blessing. So please join me in the responsive reading. You have traveled too fast over false ground. Now your soul has come to take you back. Take refuge in your senses. Open up to all the small miracles you rushed through. Become inclined to watch the way of rain when it falls slow and free. Imitate the habit of twilight, taking time to open the well of color that fostered the brightness of day. Draw alongside the silence of stone until its calmness can claim you.
Before we get into the passing of the peace, we have a couple of community announcements. I understand that because we're still in the Christmas season, it's not till next Sunday that we take down all the Christmas decorations. And so after church, it's all hands on deck, is what I'm told, to come and help put away these lovely decorations. Special thanks to Robert Stapp and Harold Sutherland for coordinating this. Thank you. The weekend after that will be Martin Luther King weekend, and our church is planning on participating in the parade, and you'll get more details on that next week, but it's the 14th is when the parade will be here in Long Beach. The theme for the parade is Live the Dream. So be prepared to represent our church and how we strive to live the dream that Martin Luther King established for us. Now let's take a moment. We had just said, draw alongside the silence of stone until its calmness can claim you, by John O'Donohue. Take a moment now and pass the peace to each other.
Hello. I'm Kirsten Pickus. I was told to touch the microphone to my chin. Feels really awkward. But I am here to, at Paul's invitation, to share a meaningful reading with you, something meaningful to me, and then talk about it in the context of inspirations and aspirations for us in 2023. So I'm looking forward today to talking to you about the power and the possibility of community. My reading is something I've carried around in my phone for a number of years. I'm kind of a community nerd. And it's by the Rabbi Jonathan Sacks. He was the former chief rabbi in England, and this is from his book, The Politics of Hope. Families are where we discover the bonds of love and trust. Schools are where we learn the collective story of which we are a part. Communities are where we are there for other people at times of need, and they for us. Congregations are where we join our prayers to those of others, making their hopes our own. Collectively, they are the places where we learn to speak the language of we as well as I. They are where we learn moral literacy, habits of the heart, the give and take of rights and responsibilities, the grammar of reciprocity. Without them, society is too abstract to be real. Community is society with a human face. The rabbi also said, community is the human expression of divine love. It is where I am valued simply for who I am, how I live, and what I give to others. It is the place where they know my name. So a sense of community is powerful. We yearn for community, to be around people with whom we share values and with whom we are called to work for something beyond our own personal fulfillment. Community creates a feeling of belonging, and putting energy into building community at First Church can lead to vibrancy and purpose. So building community has been a long-standing passion of mine. In my doctoral studies in community health, my work as a licensed marriage and family therapist with people affected by HIV and AIDS, and in the focus area I chose as a framework for myself during my tenure as moderator here. It's kind of nerdy. I thought of it as the year of relationships, much of which centered around formalizing a small groups program for us. So how can we continue to build community here at First Church? Well, we can develop relationships with each other. We can encourage relationships. We can be a connector by helping people build relationships with one another. We can engage with people, people that we know and people that we don't. We can attend potlucks and social functions. Social connections create a sense of belonging, which is a key aspect of mental health. We can sign up for a small group. Side note, PRISM is going to be launching in the coming months. That's a social group for people who identify as LGBTQIA+. Having friends and being with like-minded people are critical aspects of belonging, but small groups are important because they create opportunities for shared identities. I love that small groups here at First Church aren't just limited to Bible studies, devotionals, and prayer groups, although we have those too. But we also have paddlers and sparklers and book groups and parks and picnics and support groups and ideas for fun affinity groups like craft beers. So join a First Church service project is another way to get involved in having a sense of community, or a social justice effort, or a planning committee for a special concert, event, or service. Host people at your home. I'm even hearing an interest in the return of serendipity suppers. Make space to be in touch with the needs of others, from prayer requests to congregational care needs, to people who could just use some good energy sent their way. Be intentional about showing interest in people's lives. And invest yourself in fostering a sense of community. Your involvement may lead to an increased sense of belonging, which might even facilitate your own personal spiritual growth. According to Rebecca Simon Peter in her recent book, Forging a New Path, Moving the Church Forward in a Post-Pandemic World, community building in churches needs to involve both spiritual and social components. And First Church, I think about this, we have the spiritual and we have the social. We're very well positioned for this. It's like adding the social, some kind of new avant-garde idea. Well, we do that well. The bottom line is that building connections between and among us can lead to a sense of divine belonging and beloved community. And I can't think of anything I want more for us in 2023. Thank you.
To the chin. I thought she had it right on her chin, but I'll put it here. Can you hear me okay? Good. Well, what in the heck was I thinking when I agreed to do this? I knew Ann needed some time off. It's been a hard and long season with a lot of services, really great services. But I didn't have anything to talk about. As far as I knew, I didn't. As I pondered my predicament, I found in the opinion section of the December 24th New York Times an article by Peter Weiner entitled, "Why Jesus Loved Friendship." Weiner had served in both the administrations of Reagan and both Bushes. No theologian, to be sure, but clearly he is a person of faith, a conservative Episcopalian, and a senior fellow at the Trinity Forum. Weiner draws on John 15, 12 to 16, and I'm going to read from the New Revised Standard Version. "This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. No one has greater love than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. You are my friends if you do what I command you. I do not call you servants any longer, because the servant does not know what the master is doing. But I have called you friends, because I have made known to you everything that I have heard from my Father." By making explicit his choice of the word friends, Weiner argues, Jesus engaged in, quote unquote, a powerful act of renaming the relationship between God and humankind. With that word, Jesus breaks apart any hierarchical relationship and elevates his listeners to participate in a relationship defined by, and I quote, mutual affection, intimacy, and self-revelation. Weiner buttressed his interpretations by quoting biblical scholars, ministers, religious leaders, and others who concurred about the importance of this passage. Weiner's lens is not mine, for he relies heavily on the belief in incarnation, that God actually became human. But in introducing me to what some call, quote, the theology of friendship, he made me question what I understood about the role of friendship in a Christian setting. Moreover, I had noted in a spate of recent news stories about a survey that says that the United States, we, both men and women, but particularly men, are failing to establish and maintain, maybe even value, strong friendships. It was reported, and I quote, "Back in 1990, Gallup asked adults in the United States how many close friends they had. One third said that their number was 10 or more. Fast forward to 2021, and a survey by Survey Center on American Life reveals a major shift in the number of significant friendships Americans have. Just 13% said they had friends in the double digits. The survey suggested that COVID might be the important factor in this change, but mentioned several other very legitimate possible influences as well. But it was when I read PBS's on-point interview of Dr. Scott Dudley, the senior minister of Bellevue Presbyterian Church in Bellevue, Washington, that I concluded that an unmentioned powerful force for division and separation is also at work. Dudley is a minister at a church known for addressing social justice issues. In recent years, he said, he had experienced devastating personal attacks on him and his leadership. He spoke about how he had pastored, and he used that, his church members, standing by them in good times and in their pain and suffering. But, he said, you say one thing they didn't like politically, and it may not even have to have been overtly political. It was just, wow, if you're going to talk about that, and they're gone. He said it's heartbreaking. I believe that too easily we allow our faith and our friendships to become victim to politics. Mind you, altogether too often in the past, we celebrated what we perceived to be a nice congruence between our faith and our politics. But as we have become aware of how unaware we were, and often still are, of the impact on others of our words and actions, we find it very difficult to distinguish between what our faith tells us to do and how our response gets tangled with all sorts of known and unknown political agendas that we hold. For me, the impact has often been to make sure friends are held somewhat at a distance, or to diminish the friendship by not living either openly or fully, or just choosing not even to hold open the opportunity to develop a strong friendship. Recognizing this, I went to work exploring how this might change. I didn't expect this little talk to be autobiographical, but it turned out to be as I went along. If God, through Jesus, says we should engage in friendship, yet we run the risk of being cast as a friend of tax collectors and sinners, what do we do? I turned to my small collection of books on faith, including the Oxford Companion to the Bible, only to discover that while the value of good friends is mentioned in several places in both Testaments, many scriptures actually warn about making friends with the wrong people or for the wrong reasons. This particularly seems to be a sub-theme in the letters to the early churches. So being a modern scholar, to the internet I went and entered friendship in the Bible. And I concluded very quickly that the evangelical wing of our faith has almost monopolized internet writings on the Bible. They pop up quickly and repeatedly, like, quote unquote, 24 warm Bible verses about friendship. But I did chance upon a religiously conservative commentator, Chip Ingham, who offers what I thought was useful advice to me for starting, growing, and maintaining friendships in a Christian context. So I share them. Number one, be aware. The person who walks through the door may be your next best friend instead of the people you sit next to in the pew. Be intentional. Number two, when my conversations aim at something other than chit-chat, be ready to follow up with that. I should be ready to meet with people again, maybe even schedule a time to get together outside of the church setting. Number three, be honest. If disagreements on issues surface, I should address them in a way that does not close off further shared exploration. 4, be available. If I invite further interaction, then when the person tries to contact me, I need to pick up the phone or answer the email or text, accept an invitation together. 5, be loyal. As a friendship develops, I will not step away if the little gossip rumor mills start to suggest an issue here. 6, be vulnerable. I will take the risk when it seems called for, and I will not blame myself if the person chooses to walk away from my effort to be a good friend. And last, and perhaps the most difficult, if requested, be spiritual. Be ready to offer prayer, laying of hands, reading scriptures, or other person-to-person activities. I can tell you from experience, this is a huge step. When I lived in Chicago, I can still remember a diabetic member of the church in his wheelchair rolling up to me next to the curb when I stopped to say hello. He was not having a good day. And he said, pray with me. Pray with me. That's not what Presbyterian lay people do. Maybe for a minister. The traffic was buzzing around and he wanted me to pray. Well, I did. It was a profound experience to allow myself to do that. So I invite you in your friendships, if that experience comes to you, take advantage of it. Pray, lay hands, read a scripture. So Happy New Year. And I wish for you and for me good friendships in 2023.
Thank you, Steve. In case you didn't realize, this is our executive committee talking to you. Ruth Keller, the vice moderator, she's traveling, so she couldn't join us. But what a wonderful treasurer, and what a wonderful secretary we have coming into this next year. As I considered what text inspired me and my aspirations for 2023, my overriding concern was what identifies me and compels me to be Christian. This feels especially crucial. And I use the word crucial intentionally because it comes from the idea of a cross. But it's crucial to me given the wide-ranging ways Christianity is expressed today. Much of what is called Christianity today is, frankly, quite distressing. Let me just enumerate a couple of things, and then I'll get to my inspired text. I'm not in line with a Christianity that is exclusively pietistic and only defined by one's personal relationship with God. The other day, Tim Mountain and I, where are you, Tim? I know you're here. Hey, there you are, Tim. We were talking about this a little bit, and he reminded me of a phrase his mother used. Is your mom online right now? How you doing, Mrs. Mountain? Thank you so much. She would say, don't be so heavenly minded that you're of no earthly good. Thank you for that reminder, Mrs. Mountain. Have a good time in Sacramento. Another so-called Christianity is this prevalent hyper right-wing and ideologically corrupted version of white supremacist Christianity. I think of the people who were holding up Bibles as they stormed the Capitol on January 6, 2020. In the name of God, they were calling for the death and the hanging of our representatives in Congress. That's frightening. That's a scary version, and it's amazing that that's called Christianity. Another version that I'm also skeptical about is the kind of Christianity that sees itself as the sole answer and the keeper of one truth, the one way type of idea that's against other religious traditions. This view expresses a lack of humility and closed-mindedness about things that we don't really know in terms of the universe, in terms of what's beyond our own existence. It makes me think of a popular bumper sticker from a few years ago. Do you remember this one? It says, "Excuse me, my karma just ran over your dogma." That's not my inspired text. The text that I'd like to share that inspires me is a simple two-word prayer. And it predates Christianity. Kyrie eleison. translated as Lord, have mercy. You know, Kyrie eleison has Jewish roots in the Psalms. It has Greek roots in its expression. It's the most often repeated prayer in Western and Eastern Orthodox and Catholic and Protestant circles. You even hear it in unexpected places, such as, you know, the jazz standard written by Joe Zawinul and performed by Cannonball Adderley, mercy, mercy, mercy. Kyrie eleison inspires me for a number of reasons. The prayer has lasted over time, across religions and culture. There's no need to translate it. You know, in the Latin Mass, they kept it in the Greek transliteration. Now, what I mean by a transliteration is where they kept the language. For example, we say things like que sera, sera, and we know what we're talking about, but we haven't translated that term. Or I put the kibosh on it. You know, that's just one of those other kind of transliterations. Things that we understand more deeply when they're in a particular language. It retains its meaning across languages. Kyrie means Lord or God. And I find the word eleison amazing. It's an imperative. It's an imperative verb for mercy, a command form to show mercy. The root word eleos, sorry if I'm getting linguistic here, but the root word eleos is the same word we use for oil. You know, like you've heard of oleo, eleison, and it's a healing oil. It literally is an oil that heals us. And so for me, mercy is imperative to being Christian. My aspiration for First Congregational Church of Long Beach 2023 is that we embrace this imperative of being merciful, of showing mercy to each other and to our local and global communities, and to be that healing oil for those around us. We have a big year ahead of us. Just this month, we are forming a search committee for a settled senior minister. It's going to be headed up by Sarah here. Thank you so much for pulling that all together. In a few weeks, Reverend Cynthia Hager will start as our designated associate minister. And thanks to folks such as Randy and Dorothy King and the Board of Building, Historical Preservation, and Safety, we're going to be able to put solar panels on this structure. And they got a grant for over $300,000 to do this for us. And hopefully, other improvements to our building will take place because this building is part of our ministry. It's a place that's integral to our worship, to assisting the unhoused, expanding our media presence, and being the combined site for arts and justice. Lord, have mercy. God, give us the grace to show mercy, to be merciful. Let us resolve to live life through mercy. Kyrie eleison. Thank you.
Should old acquaintance be forgot, and
Oh, that was lovely. My heart is full. I know your hearts are full too. Prayers of the people this morning. When I ask for your thoughts and prayers, I will repeat them for our friends and family online. And I'm asking that we respond after your prayer with the words, God, hear our prayer. So take a moment, sit in a comfortable position, just take a breath, let it out. For me, I look up when I pray. You may look down or up or just straight out, but just take a moment. What prayers are in your heart today? Those of you joining us online, please put your prayers in the chat. I don't think we have anyone monitoring them today, but the people online will see your prayer. God, hear our prayers. For the people of Ukraine, God, hear our prayer. A better 2023 than 2022 was. God, hear our prayer. That the drought may end this year. God, hear our prayer. For the asylum seekers and their families at the border, that they may find a safe and a welcome place to settle. God, hear our prayer. For our present and future ministers, God, hear our prayer. A prayer for thanksgiving for the leadership of our church. God, hear our prayer. For the new Congress that they will seek and find unity in both spirit and action. God, hear our prayer. For all of our prayers, spoken and unspoken, for all the prayers in the chat, God, hear our prayers. And now we will join in community, saying our common prayer. Eternal Spirit, earth maker, pain bearer, life giver, source of all that is and that shall be, Father and Mother of us all, loving God in whom is heaven, may the hallowing of your name echo through the universe. The way of your justice be followed by the people of the earth. With the bread we need today, feed us. For the hurts we inflict on one another, forgive us. In the time of temptation and test, strengthen us. From trials too great to endure, spare us. From the grip of all that is evil, free us. For your reign is in the glory of the power that is love, now and forever. Amen. And Kyrie eleison. We're going to have a little bit of a change in the service order. Communion will come after the invitation. to the offering. And it's my pleasure to be able to do that. So I'm going to stay here and invite you to the offering. And so the deacons are preparing to bring the offering baskets down. So today begins a new year. May it be better than last year. Another opportunity to reset, to start again, to engage more fully in community, and to make new friends. To work toward a more just, kind, and peaceful city, state, country, world. That's a tall order. Where do we start? One small kindness. Who is to help us? Our God and each other. What is our vision? The profile is clear. We have identified our values and our way forward. It's our church community that can make the difference. So, let's start the new year right. Please give generously so we have the means to continue to practice what we preach. The offering will now be received. And for our friends online, you may contribute and donate by clicking the link in the chat, online. The offering will now be received. Bless these gifts. May they be well used to do God's work through this church and our mission partners. Amen.
Paul, was the piece that you played your own composition? Yes. Thank you. So, nobody is perfect. Indeed, I expect that each of us here today at some point in our life has been imperfect. I would even say that it's possible that many of us here have been jerks. The good news about that is that this is a table built for jerks. In fact, if you're perfect, you aren't welcome. This is a table for everything weak, for everything mortal, for impermanence, for occasionally thoughtless people, and even sometimes brilliant. Bring it on. The doubts and the fears and the hopeless thoughts, the anxious dreams, all of it, bring it here and open your hands. And we're all of us seeking that temperate valley, that stable, the baby, and the way out of this mess. Will you pray with me? In this moment, in this breath, everything that was and is and shall be is called into being. We remember it all, O God, from the first star and the first breath, and your heart beating throughout, declaring all of it good. Such was the beginning of everything. And even as we screwed up time and again, you sent prophets to say what was true about the world, and you whispered freedom in the ear of slaves and made a people of them. You came to us in a child, a baby, born in poverty, who was visited by the dregs and the unhoused, farm animals, and remarkable traveling foreigners. You have never left us. We might imagine that you are distant and inaccessible, but in fact, we live steeped in your world, infusing everything with a call to sing of hope, even in the face of evil, singing of perseverance in the heart of sorrow. You are a presence we often ignore in the world as it rushes by, or we rush through it because we see no sacredness and we do not understand how the world is holy. Yet this world is, in truth, filled with your Spirit. And we call upon you, O God, to fill each of us this year and the next and the next. And by this baby at the heart of our Christmas, by this child who all humanness glows, you have changed us and reminded us of how the world will look one day, transformed forever by your holy touch. O holy God, O Holy One, sing every voice under the sun. Blessed is the one who was and blessed is the one who is to come. And embedded in our memory is that story of the Last Supper, when with his own hands he offered himself to those he loved and transformed a simple meal into the stuff of life itself, announcing as he broke the bread and blessed the cup that he would not share this meal again with them until some future hope was once more born in the world. So after they had finished supper, he took the bread and he broke it. Do you remember what he said? What did he say? This is my body broken for you. Do this in remembrance of me. And likewise, after they'd finished supper, he took the cup and he said a blessing over it. Do you remember what he said? What did he say? It's my blood shed for the forgiveness of sins. Breathe your blessing on this loaf and this cup, and over every living thing which springs up to grow, to flower, and dare say again the words, this is my body. And over every death force which waits in readiness to corrode, to wither, to cut down, and speak again your commanding words which express the supreme mystery of faith. This is my blood. The bread we break is a token of the unity in human frailty, community itself, and the cup we will share is filled with the blood poured by the one whose passion was a sign that all is not lost, never. So, remembering the instructions from Dr. Boyd Batstone. I'm not sure I've got it. Okay. Oh, down is the key. Do as you will. Jesus said, take and eat. Drink of it, all of you. Thank you, God, for all you redeem, for all that is mysterious, for all that feeds us, for truth and hope and remembrance that we live every day in a season of joy. God and Son and Spirit one. Amen.
Receive the benediction. You can remain standing. May your hearts overflow, and may your minds clearly know how your love and your hands can pour love on this land and this community. Go tell it on the mountain. God be with you. Kyrie eleison.